going to welcome in the New York Yankees beat writer and editorial director at ESNY. Let's welcome in Christian Kouroupakis. Christian, thanks for being with us.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me.
Christian, we're going to jump right into it because there's so much going on in Yankee land down at spring training. The question going into spring training, unfortunately, is still a question mark. But what do you see in terms of the number 4 and number 5 starter in the rotation? Who gets the nod?
Well, certainly a problem the Yankees wish they didn't have this late in spring training. They hope they would have had it decided, but clearly that's not the case. As to who currently has the nod in the battle for the 4th and 5th spot, I would think in the Yankees' mind it's Luis Severino and Brian Mitchell, basically because really no one else to separate themselves from the pack, and the Yankees really want Luis Severino to pan out as a starter. They'd rather get his feet wet in the majors right now. Brian Mitchell impressed last year, impressed in last spring training as well, has some major league success. So in my mind, it's Luis Severino and Brian Mitchell in the lead. But, man, this Jordan Montgomery kid, I really like his chances.
Well, I agree with you 100% all the way around. One thing that I like that's an obvious thing, Jordan Montgomery throws the ball with his left hand. And I mean, at Yankee Stadium, that should mean something. The Yankees have never won a championship without having solid left-handed pitching. You can go all the way back. Last time we won in 2009 with CC Sabathia, and don't forget Andy Pettitte, and you go all the way back through the years. Gator, we had in the 70s, Ron Guidry, and then even in the 60s, you had Whitey Ford. We always had top of the rotation lefties. Now, Jordan Montgomery has just exploded onto the scene. A lot of people didn't see him coming. Did he catch your eye previous to this, or caught you by surprise also?
Oh, I got to watch him a bunch when he had his stint at AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Got to see him there. Actually wrote a column before spring training that you shouldn't count this kid out in the rotation battle. You said he was a lefty. No Yankee championship run happened without a lefty. And the best part about this kid is 140 innings last year between two levels, has never missed a start dating back to college. He's got a 5-pitch mix, and here in spring training, has holding a batting average against of under 200. His last start against the Rays, he made Evan Longoria, an all-star third base, look foolish. So I don't know. I've been watching Green since he came up to AAA, had a sub-1 ERA there, dominated every level he's been at, and very, very little left to prove in the minor league. So if the Yankees really want to assess minor league talent at the major league level, they kind of got to give this kid a try.
I agree. Well said. And I think on the last broadcast, Kenny Singleton compared his delivery to Jim Cott. Now, I'm a lot older than you. I know who Jim Cott was. I remember him. I remember him as when I was a kid watching him, and he did have, has a similar delivery. And Jim Cott was a tremendous fielder, a perennial Gold Glover, and so not a bad comp if he's correct with that. But he is very, very interesting. And you know what, Christian? If we just looked at it that way, and if Jordan Montgomery did get one of the two spots, boy, that really makes it interesting. What do you do in terms of Severino, Brian Mitchell, the one that doesn't make it? Does he go to the pen? Does he go down to AAA?
Well, Luis Severino, you can't stick him in the pen now. I've been very firm on that stance, how there's still 2 to 3 years left of development in him. And if you throw him into the pen now, you're just going to hinder that potential of him growing into the ace that we all really anticipated him to become. So, and the problem we're seeing with Luis Severino is very simple. It's fastball command. He came out of the gate with a very improved changeup. Pedro Martinez did him well. And he just really got to work on his fastball location. You saw it last year. He just was riding up in the zone. And once you face a batter in the major leagues for the second, third time in the order, you're going to get lit up. So for Luis Severino, it has to do with fastball command. So if he doesn't make it out of the gate, you got to send him to AAA to work on it and get right. Throwing into the pen now is just dangerous. Luis Cessa, they already put him in AAA. Good move there. He needs work too. Chad Green's also another guy in the competition. He profiled a lot better as an Adam Warren 2.0. His fastball would be so much better in the pen. His secondary pitches aren't good enough, if you want to simplify it to that. Brian Mitchell is tough, and this is the reason why I didn't say Montgomery was a favorite in the Yankees' mind, because Brian Mitchell really isn't an Adam Warren 2.0. he's a guy who really belongs in the starting rotation. And if he didn't really do anything to deserve a boot from the starting rotation battle, I think you got to stick him in AAA also, unfortunately.
All good points you make. Pun intended, let's circle back to Luis Severino, because with the circle change, I'm impressed. I'm glad that he's been working on the changeup. This is something that I've been preaching from day one. When he first came up, I thought that in 2015, when he exploded onto the scene, he had tremendous success. But the first thing that I noticed was that his changeup was too fast. He was throwing it at 89 miles an hour, and the pitch was coming in straight as a string. And that's not good. Now, granted, honestly, I was one of the ones that was kind of throwing this out there, saying, hey, get with Pedro Martinez. He's a countryman from the Dominican Republic, and et cetera. And I'm glad that he actually met with him, and I'm so glad that now the beat writers are all talking about the changeup, because all of last year it was there was an unknown. People couldn't really get their arms around what the problem was, especially, most importantly, Severino himself. Post-game, it was Severino and Girardi talking about fastball command, but they never spoke about the changeup. Christian, here's what I think is key to this whole thing. When he was a prospect coming through the system, his best pitch was his fastball. It was rated on a scale of 20 to 80. It was rated 65, so a plus pitch. But also, his changeup was rated 60 to 65 on that same scale. So he had an excellent changeup. Somewhere along the line, he lost the feel for that. And here's what I'm seeing. Even though it's improved, if you go back and you look at him in the futures game, when he pitched very effectively, that changeup was coming in at 84 miles an hour. And it had that late life that you want. It had that sink, and it faded away from lefties. I still don't see that pitch at that quality now, and I would really hope that he worked on it a little bit harder, because he's been up and down, and basically what it is when he does throw that changeup, even now, I'm seeing, and I don't know about you, but I'm seeing 88 miles an hour. But I do see that sink, that late life, which is very, very important. But I'd like to see him dial it back, Christian, even more. I'd like to see it at 84. The lefty bats will tell you everything, whether it's lefty or righty. If you throw a good changeup, they're way out in front. I just don't see it as much as I'd like to with Severino yet.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. From a true baseball perspective, I like it. You hit it all on the head. The first outing I saw from Severino, that's when you really saw the changeup come out of the gate, and everyone's eyes really opened up. They're like, wow, Severino's changeup is back. This is the chance for Severino to blossom into his ceiling. He can reach it this season. And then, like you said, you still see the dip now. You like the changeup to be a little slower. But the thing is, I like the fact that the changeup is dipping. Last year, you look at all of the heat maps, and you see the changeup was left up in the zone. It was no dip. You said before it was flat. That's what the changeup looked like. Now you're seeing the dip back. So I think with Severino, especially since he's 23 years old, you got to take it one step at a time. Changeup is looking like it's improved. Now we got to get the speed there, and then now we can work on the fastball command. But this kid's 23. You got a lot of room to improve.
I hear the excitement in your voice when you talk about Severino. I agree with you 1,000%. I think this kid could have the whole package, and here's why. Unfortunately, the Yankees don't broadcast enough games on the YES Network. And the last outing against the Houston Astros, I actually had that Severino pitched. I'm sorry. I had to actually tape the game at like 6 o'clock in the morning. It was on the MLB channel, and then I kind of watched it later on in the day. So now this was a game where I believe Adam Warren had started the game, went the first 4 innings, and then he came in relief for Adam Warren, and he pitches. He starts the 5th inning, and now I'm watching Christian. I'm watching the Houston Astro play-by-play guys. If you're with me so far, because again I'm watching the MLB channel. It wasn't on YES, so now I'm watching, and I'm curious to see what the Houston Astro play-by-play guys say. So here comes the first pitch out of Severino's hand, 96 miles an hour. And he says the word that you just used. Wow. The next pitch, Christian, was 99 miles an hour. This was his second pitch coming into the game. And you know what their response was? Whoa. So they went from wow on the first pitch to whoa on the second pitch, from 96 to 99. And Christian, if I were doing the play-by-play with you, if you were doing the play-by-play and I was doing the color, you know what I would say? Why? Why are you throwing 99 miles an hour? And basically what it is, Christian, there's nothing wrong with that. Here's what I'm saying. What I'm seeing out of him in spring training is kind of more of the same. He needs to show the Yankee management that he understands. He says he understands it. In other words, what I would mandate if I were Girardi and or Rothschild, I would say, Luis, you're going to throw 60 pitches today? I want to see 20 changeups, 20 sliders, and 20 fastballs. I want to see you throw a lot of changeups because it's only spring training. It does not matter if we win or lose the game. You know what it is, Christian? I'll use the word he's sprinkling in his changeup. Why is he sprinkling in his changeup? He should be throwing this a lot so that he gets comfortable with it. I want to see fastball, changeup, fastball, changeup, fastball. The slider, in my opinion, is his third best pitch. I want to see him throw the changeup more because that's how he will get better. That's how he'll get the feel of it quicker. Agree?
No, I completely agree. I feel like you have a little baseball coaching you. Are you a baseball coach?
You know what? I have baseball coaching in my past, but you want to not at a high enough level that it would really impress anybody. But I'll tell you, since you asked me, I coached from little league level all the way up to high school level on Staten Island, and basically when I had my little league baseball team, I did not want anyone snapping off curveballs. I wanted fastball and changeup. Just, it's easy for a youngster to throw a changeup. Basically, just grab the ball and choke it. You could grab, you don't really have to worry about grip that much. Although I am friends with John Franco's brother, Jim Franco. He runs a baseball academy on Staten Island. And he believes in the changeup so strongly, and I do also. Yep. So that's probably what you hear in my voice, and that's why you're kind of, and I thank you for that. And basically, what it is that you're very astute to pick that up. I feel so strongly about the changeup, not only with Luis Severino, but Pinto is missing the boat with it also. It is a great pitch. It's something that I've always preached for years and years, and I just admire it when I see it. There are some teams and organizations that stress it. I'll give you two small market teams that stress it, and they give us problems because of it, because we have a dead red hitting lineup for the most part through the years, although that's changing a little bit now. Tampa Bay Rays and the Oakland A's, two small market teams, they stress the changeup, and it always gave players like, whether it was Granderson or Mark Teixeira, fits. And I believe so strongly in that pitch. Whether it is that you want to go with the changeup is one thing, but you have to have an assortment of pitches. You have to have at least 3 and hopefully 4 pitches. I mean, this is, in my opinion, baseball 101. You don't have to be a coach for that. But we have 40%, Christian, of our rotation last year. 40% of our rotation. And I wrote a column and I called it Pinto Reno. Pinto and Severino. You know what I mean? And you had 2 guys going fastball, slider, fastball, slider, fastball, slider, fastball, slider, and once in a while sprinkling a changeup. Not good enough. Their record last year as starters was a combined 6-20. And they both had the same problem. And we will only go as far as Severino and Pinto take us this year also, because somebody has to carry the load a little bit and help out Tanaka, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that he stays healthy.
Yeah, and I want to get back to your point of Severino not using the changeup enough at spring training. When he was first sent down to AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre last season, after he struggled out of the gate, I got a chance to go down to Scranton to see one of his one of his assignment starts. And he got fastball happy because he noticed these guys aren't hitting my fastball. So he was blowing fastballs by AAA hitters all day long, and he wasn't using his changeup. So I'm afraid that this is a little immaturity popping up, that hey, I don't need to use my changeup. The fastball's working, and he gets fastball happy. He doesn't use it. When you mentioned the last year, the usage between Pineda and Severino, Severino used his changeup 9% of the time. That's simply unacceptable, and he has to get back to the variety.
Agree, totally, and that's a great job out of you that you went to AAA to watch him firsthand. But you hit it right on the head. This is what I saw when I watched the spring training game against Houston. They were blown away. The announcers were like, "Wow, whoa!"
Yeah.
And again, it's great. But again, he's blowing away guys that he should be working on that changeup. It's nice to see him blow guys away at 99 miles an hour. Christian, I'm going to say something else about Severino that I like so much. You watch the games as closely as I do. Do you remember last year there was a very chippy game up in Toronto? It was brushbacks and guys getting hit by pitch, and then ultimately it ended in a bench clearing, I'll call it brawl, but close enough. And Severino was on the mound. He threw inside to Smoke, and then he hit Smoke. Smoke is not a small guy. He's a middle of the order. He's a big guy. I bet you he's at least 6'3", 6'4". He was going to charge the mound. Severino threw his glove down, put his hands up, and said, "Come on." I like the fact that this kid is a bulldog. I also like the fact that he fields his position like a cat impeccably. He's not afraid to throw to the bases. I mean, he'll get the lead runner. He'll field the ball. He'll throw to third. You can check off a lot of columns with this kid. But again, that's the thing. He's a kid. And I'll ask you this question. Where do you lay the blame with the Cashmans, the Girardis, and the Rothschilds of the world? Can't they impose their will and say, you're gonna go out, you're gonna throw 60 pitches. If you come back after that outing and you didn't throw 20 changeups, I'm going to hold that against you. Can't they mandate that and force him to do it? Because you know what? They should.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope for me to comment on. I mean, you go to Larry Rothschild and you go to Joe Girardi after games, and they'll say exactly what we're saying. The fastball command has to be there. The changeup needs fine-tuning. There'll be a broken record saying that over and over and over again. What they're doing behind closed doors, we don't know, but I'm sure that they know the problem and they're trying to work on it. How it's not being executed, because the problem, it's obvious. We've been talking about it for at least 10 minutes. We know the problem. The problem's obvious. Why it's not being fixed, God knows.
Right. But you know what? And the other frustrating thing is, Christian, and then we'll move on because, it's just a pleasure speaking to you. We could talk, we could talk all day. But the thing is that when you look at Michael Pineda, this is where, again, I start looking at the organization a little bit, and I say, hey, this kid, he's not a kid anymore. Michael Pineda, now, we've had him for 5 years. He's in the walk year of his contract. He's practically walking out the door. And I've heard Hal Steinbrenner say, I can't figure this out. How he could have all of these strikeouts and yet give up home runs and have like a subpar ERA and and all of the peripherals. Here's the answer, Hal. He is a two-pitch pitcher. Now, he's different than Severino because he has probably one of the best sliders in all of baseball when it's on. Severino doesn't. Severino's got an okay slider. When Pineda's got that downward bite, that downward tilt, Christian, you know it. It's unhittable. That's why when he's got that slider working, he's unhittable and he has that kind of outing. When his slider goes east to west, when it spins and it doesn't have that downward bite, that's when he gets hit. Because think about the range of miles per hour that he has. It ranges from like 89 with the slider to 95 with his fastball. It's not enough for a major league hitter to put the thought in his mind of a difference in velocity.
Yeah, and we use a lot of words to describe Pineda's changeup. I like to use the word horrifying because that's exactly what it is. When it's on, it's nightmare-inducing. But like you said, when he gets into trouble, you can't approach major league hitters with a fastball. I don't care if it's 100. I don't care if it's 105. I don't care if it's 95. You're going to get in trouble if that's all you have. And that's what we've pretty much seen for the last 5 years. Of course, some injuries thrown in there. But this is a huge year for Pineda and the Yankees because if he can go on, this rotation can be carried pretty far because you've seen his potential. So big year for Pineda, and I guess you can just hope because he's an enigma. You don't know what you're going to get from him.
Right. You know what? Christian, let's take a look at. We're talking about sliders. We're talking about changeups. Let's talk about a curveball, but a curveball of a different variety. A curveball was thrown to the New York Yankee organization when Didi Gregorius got hurt during the WBC. No one expected that. You have a position player, shortstop that was playing second, so I don't know how much blame we can put to that. But the bottom line is, suffice to say, we have a concern now where who will play shortstop to start the season, thinking the fact that Didi will miss all of April and possibly a little bit of May also.
Yeah, this is a huge blow for the Yankees. You're talking about just the third shortstop in Yankees history to hit 20 home runs and bat over 275. That's the kind of production that you're about to miss for a month and possibly a month and a half, maybe 2 months. So it's a big blow, but the Yankees certainly have the candidates to fill that position. I don't want to say fill it, but they have the candidates to go play the shortstop position. I think the Yankees should go the boring route and play Ronald Torreyes until Didi comes back. Because the prospects everyone's throwing out there, they're a little naive. People who throw out the prospects, how the prospects should go play, they're a little naive. They don't really know how they're going to pan out. They're kind of just saying, oh, let the kids play. Don't think the Yankees should go that route. It's dangerous to both them and the kids. So just go the Ronald Torreyes route. He made one error last year in 99 innings at short. Batted 260. That's modest for a utility man. Almost gave Chase Headley a run for his money at the end of the year. So I think the Yankees really need to go the boring option here and go Ronald Torreyes.
Well, having said that, if they did, then who would be the utility infielder backing up Torreyes and the will be on the major league roster?
Rob Refsnyder for the time being. He play a little bit of third, plays first, plays second, right, left. He'll fill in as that utility guy until Didi comes back.
Your thought process there would be that, let's say, God forbid, Torreyes gets hurt or whatever the case may be. Are you thinking in the back of your mind who? Because I don't think we know that Refsnyder can't play shortstop. So are you thinking in the back of your mind if they needed to go with a shortstop, they would maybe go with Castro on a day-to-day basis if need be?
As much as that's a defensive nightmare, having Castro and Rob Refsnyder up the middle, I mean, if Torreyes, God forbid, gets hurt, I think you have to go that route. But you're talking about a guy, there's a reason why he's not a shortstop anymore. Right. Since 2010, he's tied with Ian Desmond for the lowest fielding percentage among shortstops, with at least 7,000 innings played.
Right.
There's a reason why he's not a shortstop.
I agree with you 100%.
I think that's a last case scenario. If all hope is lost, then you go Castro at short. But for the time being, just put a little placeholder there. Like I said, boring like 5 times during this segment. Just be boring. Go Torreyes.
Okay. Well, let's. And again, anyone who thinks that the Yankees are going to elevate Gleyber Torres to the major league level, it just doesn't get it. You're 100% right there. Tyler Wade has a little bit more experience. He's played on a higher level. Did you discount him completely, or could you see a scenario with Torreyes and Wade to start the season as opposed to Refsnyder?
Listen, I like Wade. And he's got some speed, he's got some upside, but I mentioned I've said it with Torres, he hasn't seen a pitch above high A. Tyler Wade hasn't seen a pitch past double A. And in that level, he made 20 errors in 352 total chances. Yeah. That's a 943 fielding percentage. Yeah. And I like Wade. He's got some speed, he's got some upside, but there's a reason why the Yankees are grooming him into a Ben Zobrist-like role as a utility guy instead of grooming into a starting shortstop or a starting second baseman. He's not a top-tier prospect. He doesn't have a lot of upside. He looks like he has some potential, but I think you're going to hinder some development if you throw him out there too, especially when it's evident that he's not really ready.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, sometimes defense is overlooked, and I cringe when it is. So, another kind of a fallback position, and again, we're hoping that injuries don't accumulate, but we have Pete Kozma, within the organization, and he's signed to a minor league deal. I mean, we know that he is a great glove. I mean, he's not going to give you much with the bat, but I mean, he could be someone that, if we had more than one injury, that could play shortstop. Because I agree with you with Wade. I also agree with you wholeheartedly with Starlin Castro. Certainly don't want to go that route. But Cosmer is someone that we know defensively could play shortstop. Agree?
Yeah, defensively, absolutely. And the thing I don't like with Cosmo is you're going to have to hide him very deep down in the lineup. He hasn't played in the majors since 2015. He batted 150 in that year. So you really have to hide him down in the lineup. Don't know, especially since this is a pretty long-term injury to Didi. I don't know if you want to stick his bat out there for a month and a half. So I don't like the Cosmo option. I also don't like the Ruben Tejada option. Okay gloves. I mean, an okay glove for Tejada. Cosmo, we know, has a superb glove. I just don't know about the bat, and I don't know how that will translate to a month and a half of baseball.
Ronald Torreyes would be my option too. He's solid. He seems to have an intangible. He can get hot. He went through a streak last year. He really puts the bat on the ball, and so yeah, I think that would be a good stopgap solution. And we would obviously hope that DD gets back sooner rather than later, because he really is coming into his own. It's nice to see.
Oh, absolutely. Didi's one of those guys that you hope can take over as the future shortstop if he hasn't already. So it's a huge blow. Hopefully it won't derail the Yankees' chances of going to the playoffs or at least coming close to it. So, yeah, stopgap into Reyes is fine. Not ideal, but none of these options are ideal.
Right. Let's move along if we can. Right field, you have. I'm going to make a prediction. Aaron is going to win the job in right field.
Well, that's a bold prediction.
Right, they're both named Aaron. We got Aaron Judge and Aaron Hicks. So, on a serious note, what do you see out there? Who do you think gets the starting day job?
I think you've got to give it to Judge. Hicks can play all three outfield positions. Has a cannon, switch hitter. Has looked a lot better at judging fly balls. I don't know if you noticed that this spring. He looked a lot better. Last year, it kind of looked like, hey, what are you doing in the outfield? He looks a lot better judging fly balls in spring training. And the reason why I like Judge in right field is, first off, his approach to the plate got a lot better. He's gotten more aggressive. He's been avoiding pitcher-friendly counts. And secondly, what justice are you doing Judge by throwing him in a fourth outfielder spot? This isn't a lower-level prospect we're talking about. This isn't an under-the-radar guy we're talking about. This is a guy who the Yankees believe will turn into a superstar. And it's kind of doing him a disservice if you throw him into that backup role. If I'm the Yankees and I don't think he's ready, you kind of got to throw him in AAA, get him at bats, but he hasn't looked like he's not ready. So Girardi says it's close, but it wouldn't make much sense not to give it to Judge right now.
I agree with you. 100%. I would give Judge right field, and Hicks is the fourth outfielder. He'll play plenty. I want to get back to something that you mentioned, the approach by Judge. I wrote a column, and I called it Opposites Attract. And just as you picked up on the fact that you hear my passion when I talk about the changeup, I feel so strongly from an offensive standpoint. The Yankees have kind of gotten off. They've gone on a bit of a tangent for the last couple of years. I think they've become too home run happy and loaded up the lineup with all left-handed hitters trying to spin and pull the ball into the cheap seats. And I've been writing about that for years as it was happening, saying this is not a good idea. Well, I wrote a column not that long ago, and I said a lot of the same people that didn't see the negatives of going out and just putting one slow-footed left-handed batter after another, becoming a victim of the shift. Now I see something that is not being written about and picked up enough. And what I see is, and this is, I'm going to give kudos to Brian Cashman, because I think this is not by accident. I think this is by design. I think he's seen the error of his ways with the lineups that included the Stephen Drews, and all the way up and down the lineup, every single position player swung the bat left-handed. Some of them were switch hitters, but they all were either lefties or switch hitters in the position players. And when they went out and they got a guy like McCann, it created a tipping point. In my opinion, you just had one pull hitter after the other. But here's my point. I see a change. And it started last year with Castro, that they've got a guy that had some ability to hit to all fields. Didn't work out as great as I hoped that it would. But consider this, Christian. When we sold off at the trading deadline, Brian Cashman, the two prospects that he targeted, the two big-name prospects that he targeted, Clint Frazier, Gleyber Torres, both right-handed batters and both guys that like to hit to the opposite field. I do not think that was by accident. Then what happened in terms of free agency even reinforced that thought in my mind. He could have brought back, the easy thing was to bring back Carlos Beltran, switch hitter. They didn't go that route, and they went with Matt Holliday. And I think they did for the reason that I'm going to tie everything together now. You talked about Aaron Judge and seeing a different approach. Just take a look at how many home runs were hit this spring training by right-handed bats shooting the ball to right center and right field. It's staggering. And again, in my opinion, it's not by accident, and it's helped everyone. Aaron Judge, they're not only hitting home runs, Christian, but they're hitting for average because it's a healthy approach. Ball's on the outside corner, you go with it. You don't pull off the ball. That's what the mistake that Judge was making last year. Judge was making that mistake last year. You saw Starlin Castro pulling off the ball, pulling their head out, pulling their hips out, and Matt Holliday was a great signing because not only is he doing it, but others are picking up on it. Judge has picked up on it. Even Gary Sanchez. He's not only hitting, but he's hitting to all fields because I'm going to tell you this. Last year in September, what happened was, in my opinion, Gary Sanchez got a little pull happy. A lot of people didn't pick up on this, but he hit 389 in August, batting average, and 222 in September. And Christian, I don't think it was that the league caught up with him because his home runs and his RBI production were there. I think he just started falling in love with the home run, and he started pulling the ball more and more, top hand dominant. In September, I saw a lot of foul home runs down the left field line, if you will. So in other words, I saw that from gap to gap, I just saw a little too pull happy. But I think that Gary Sanchez is going to benefit from Holliday. Judge is going to benefit from Holliday. I think you are going to see a much different and better balanced offense with the New York Yankees.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. Last year, the Yankees really struggled with scoring runs. And about the Matt Holliday signing, you're talking about a former batting champion that's not only capable of bringing power back to the designated hitter role, something we really didn't see from A-Rod last year, but he's a teacher. And you're seeing him work with these kids, working. What a better teacher than a former batting champion. So that's kind of why I love the Matt Holliday signing so much. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head with the righty power. That's something that Brian Cashman did on purpose, and that's something that we really needed to see. None of these big-sized left-handed hitters that Cashman justified the signings with by, you can utilize the short porch. No, you see a lot of the better Yankee hitters go the other way from the right side. You're seeing Judge do it. You saw Gary Sanchez do it, and he's doing it now in spring. You also saw Tyler Austin do it. All his home runs were the opposite field. So it wasn't done on accident. This isn't a coincidence. This is purpose, and it's going to reap the benefits.
I agree 100%. Well said. Now that we've kind of we brought it full circle. If you had to put a lineup together, there's been so much talk about Gardner and Ellsbury at the top of the lineup and whether Girardi will keep them there. Will he break them up? What do you see in terms of a lineup?
I wanted to see Didi in the number 2 hole because you're going to see he's not a typical left-handed hitter. He hits lefties very well, so you're not kind of stacking up 2 lefties. You are, but you're really not. And the guy in front of Gary Sanchez is going to see a lot of good pitches. Didi tapped into power last year, so I really wanted to see Didi in that 2 hole, but now it's not old news anymore. He won't be here for the first 2 months. So now I kind of want to see the Gary Sanchez bat second experiment. I wasn't sold on it in the beginning, especially with Didi there and how, in my mind, he was the prototypical number 2 hitter. But now I kind of want to see the Gary Sanchez experiment in that 2 hole. I think the 1-2 punch, the table setters of Gardner and Ellsbury has expired, hasn't really worked out. Brett Gardner still has the OPP. He's not hitting well. He's not hitting like he should be, or like the All-Star form he was in 2015. But he's still getting on base. He's still putting himself in position to score. So I keep Gardner up top. I kind of put Sanchez in that 2 hole just to see how it goes. And I gotta drop Ellsbury back into like the 7-8 hole.
I agree, and that you know what, I like the idea of Sanchez batting second. This is what I would do. I would go Gardner leading off. He has a better on base percentage. I would drop Ellsbury in the lineup. I wouldn't bat him ninth. I would bat Chase Headley ninth. He's a switch hitter, so you could really go the entire lineup going lefty righty, without having anybody back to back. But more important than that, I like the fact of Sanchez, Bird, and Holiday at 2, 3, 4. I'm going to tell you why. Getting back to the point that I said about Sanchez, what I saw in September, that he got a little top hand dominant. I want to make sure that he doesn't fall into that habit. And there is a certain mindset to batting second, where if Gardner's on and he's being held on, you got that big hole between first and second. I think it would reinforce what we talked about with Matt Holliday, etc. It would reinforce shooting the ball to right field at times and hitting to all fields. So I really, really like that for that reason. I like Bird batting third because I think he's the best hitter in the lineup. It will prove out. And then you have Holiday batting cleanup. When I look at Bird, and I threw something out last year. In fact, I interviewed Chad Jennings. I'm sure you know who he is. Last February, he was good enough to call into my show. And one of the things that I did a little bit of a segment, and I called it Bird Watching. And I said, if left alone, he can be the best hitter on the Yankees. He can hit for average and power, but I don't want to see him fall into that same trap that many others do, whether it's Teixeira, Giambi, where you got that short porch and then you become just pull happy. He needs to hit gap to gap, and a little bit of a play on words, and I kind of threw it out on Twitter. I got a decent response. I said foul line to foul line, and I spelled it FOWL with the bird watching. And basically what it is that he needs to stick to that. Hit to all fields. We need these guys hitting for average and power, because you know what, Christian? That's what wins not only during the regular season, that's the kind of approach that wins in the postseason, when you face better pitching, when they can just toy with you if you're dead pull.
Oh, absolutely. And what I love about Greg Bird so much is his simple swing. It's quiet. It's not over. I guess you could use over aggressive. It doesn't look like he's putting all his effort into it. It's so sweet. It's so sound. It looks sick. And he's been driving the ball to other parts of the field too. He's got a lot of extra base hits, not only home runs, a lot of doubles into the gaps.
Yep.
This is your time. I was growing up during this age, but do you see a little bit of Tino Martinez in him in terms of his approach, and not the fact that he's not a Giambi, he's not a Teixeira, he kind of uses all sides of the field? Yeah,
but I see where you're going with that, and absolutely. I mean, Tino, when we got him from Seattle in the '96 season, after the night, we saw him in '95 when unfortunately we lost to Seattle head-to-head, and then we traded for him, which is a great move. He replaced Don Mattingly, the legendary Don Mattingly, and yeah, he did used to like to hit to all fields. I think Greg Bird is even a better hitter than Tino. Mm-hmm. I think he's just really smooth. Just as you said, he's got a very smooth swing. I can't say enough about him. I mean, but again, I want to see. I don't want to see that approach get spoiled. I don't want to see him get kind of too enamored with the long ball where he just spins and pulls off the ball. I don't think it will happen. Especially, Christian, what we see happening. I believe. Go back and look at 2015 when he came up. He hit a lot of home runs in a short amount of time, but his batting average wasn't that great. It was .260. He could do better than that. You know what it was, in my opinion, Christian? He was one of many in a lineup where he saw all of these veterans pulling. And he says, well, if Stephen Drew is going to pull, and if Teixeira is going to pull, and if McCann is going to pull, and nobody thinks about going the opposite way, even when the extreme shift is on, and we're down by 7 runs, and we're in the 9th inning, and a McCann is up or a Chase Headley's up, and no one's putting a bunt down third, down 7 runs in the 9th inning. Well, why am I going to go against the grain? I'll be a pull hitter too. I think what I see now is he is part of a lineup where it becomes contagious, Christian. I think he sees other guys shooting the ball to all fields, and he's doing it also. And the nice thing about it is it doesn't go against his grain. That is the type of hitter he is. You've probably seen it firsthand. I saw it in the minor leagues. I saw the way he approached it. And again, what I would say is more than gap to gap. He's capable of hitting foul line to foul line if he's left to his natural abilities.
Oh yeah, 100%. And another thing you like to mention the follow the leader aspect of the lineup. It's a younger, athletic lineup now. You're not seeing these big lefties in there trying to pull the ball every time. You're going to see the young, athletic lineup. We talked about it before, going the other way. There's a lot of type of those guys in the lineup now, unlike years past. So that suits Bird well as well. And I want to go back to the lineup part, the construction of the lineup. If you put Bird in that free hole with Sanchez in front of him, first of all, Gary Sanchez is going to see a lot of good pitches because Bird's behind him. Gardner's on base. You don't want to walk Sanchez to face Greg Bird next. Gary Sanchez is going to see a lot of pitches. Greg Bird's going to see a lot of pitches. So I'm really excited for the offensive abilities of this 2017 Yankees team.
I agree with you 100%, Christian. Let me ask you this, and I thank you for the time that you spent with us. I just want to ask you a couple of more things. I want you to weigh in on a couple of more things. This is more of a quick analysis, but odds makers have the Yankees, let's say, at 83.5 games to win for the season. If you had to say over or under that number, tell me what it would be and why.
I say over that. And here's the thing about the 2017 Yankees. This is a team last year that pretty much waved the white flag at the deadline, yet finished the year at a 90-win pace. Now, first looking at why last year's team struggled, they didn't have a serviceable first baseman. They didn't have a serviceable DH. Middle relief was bad, and it kind of made no-runs DMC a non-factor. Now you see Greg Bird back in there. He can provide the Yankees with some pop from first again. Matt Holliday, in my opinion, will be a lot better than A-Rod, the A-Rod we saw last year. He better be. And middle relief corps looks a lot stronger. They added Chapman back into the mix. Offense looks better. I feel like the rotation could hold. It held last year a little bit. It could hold a little bit this year, but I think the offense will be a lot better for them to squeeze a few more wins out. If I had to put a total, I'm putting it 86-87.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you just about everything that you said. And in fact, what I'll agree with you. I'll say, all they need to do is win 84 to go over the Vegas line, so to speak. But we don't care about the Vegas line as Yankee fans. What we want to see them win a championship. So that's the thing. That's the leap of faith. Where how do we get from 84 to more than that? And the way I see it is the offense will be much improved. It will be an exciting type of offense. You will not just see the shift on them for the entire game like we saw in 2014, 15, 16. You know what, Christian? I threw out an interesting stat that I kind of observed on my own. And basically, consider this. And this is talking about how devastating the shift was and what a mistake it was for the Yankees to just have all of these slow-footed lefty pull hitters. Consider this, Christian. In 2009, that was the last time the Yankees won the World Series. And I don't have notes in front of me per se, but I think I have it on point. They had a 283 team batting average. They had a 362 team on-base percentage. What's so significant about that? Consider this, Christian. In 2014, 15, and 16, the last 3 years, after the Yankees spent $500 million in 2014 with Ellsbury and McCann and Beltran, etc., the Yankees do not have one player that was with qualifying at-bats. I'm not talking about a small sample size. Let's say like Gary Sanchez last year. I'm talking about were qualifying at-bats to qualify for the batting title. In the last 3 years, Christian, the Yankees do not have one player that hit 283, and they do not have one player that had an on-base percentage of 362. That's a staggering stat that I think went overlooked by the Yankees, but I don't think they overlook it now. I think their analytics department is looking at it differently, and I think they're changing and seeing the error of their ways. But that's a stat that, again, they last year, out of 30 teams, they were 25th in on-base percentage. But nobody talks about it. They just talk about home runs or whatever the case may be. But they need to get back to the good old-fashioned stats of batting average and on-base percentage because it shouldn't be overlooked.
No, you hit the nail on the head, and that stat kind of brought me back. That's a pretty neat stat you threw out there, and yeah, it's really no debating that point. The Yankees got to get back to the old ways of really just I don't know the right words to describe it, just playing the game the right way, having the right approach. You can't really, the game's changing, and the Yankees got to change from this left-handed pull happy ways, and they're kind of doing that, and it's kind of very neat to see.
You know what, Christian, thank you. I got one more to throw at you, and I did ask you if you got a chance, to go over to my website. I threw a question out. I always throw it to anybody that calls into the show, whether it's somebody like yourself, a beat writer, or a diehard fan. And the question is this: when we talk about Yankee Mount Rushmore, you have Ruth, Gehrig, you have DiMaggio, and Mantle, and I don't think anybody is pushing those guys off of Mount Rushmore and elbowing them out. And nor would we want to. We embrace our history. No one has 4 iconic players better than the New York Yankees in any sport. But the interesting thing that I came up with is I said that they covered the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. 5 decades. Let's call them the old-time Yankees because the old stadium, the stadium that Ruth built, was built in 23. Steinbrenner bought the team in 73, exactly 50 years later. Now, interestingly enough, the Steinbrenner family owns the Yankees for 5 decades, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and now we're in the 10s and well into it. My question to you is, if you had to put Steinbrenner, Mount Rushmore, 4 and only 4 players, who would you put on Steinbrenner, Mount Rushmore, meaning 73 forward?
First of all, I got a chance to watch the video, and I like the idea. It's very unique. I never really thought of a post or during the Steinbrenner era of Mount Rushmore. You always think of the old names, like you said. So I did get a chance to put together my Mount Rushmore of the Steinbrenner era, and my 1-2 goes with you. I go Jeter number 1, most hits in Yankees history. Highest, I don't like to use WAR, but he has the highest WAR among Yankees players since 1970 by a decent margin. He's the captain, so he's my 1. Number 2, I go with Mariano Rivera, all-time saves leader, critical part to pretty much each World Series run, lowest ERA among Yankees pitchers since 70 with 1,000 innings. Now, number 3 is where I go, where it gets tough. Now you have a little debate going. 3, I go with Thurman Munson, just because of the impact he had in the clubhouse he was in. He was the leader. He was the guy. Career 292 hitter, playing one of the most grueling positions. He's my 3. Number 4, I go Andy Pettitte. Not a lot of people will agree with me on this, but yeah, I'm going Pettitte. Most strikeouts in Yankees history, most postseason wins in the majors. And I know it's my second time using the WAR stat. I never like to use it, but Pettitte is just behind Mariano Rivera among Yankees pitchers since 1970. So that's my 4, and I'll give you some honorable mentions too. Willie Randolph, Bernie Williams, Ron Guidry, Mattingly, Posada, Goose Gossage, Reggie Jackson. But yeah, that's my list.
Great answer. And, again, there's no, just as you said, the first 2 are easy. The next 2, not as easy. But you went Munson, the captain. He was Rookie of the Year, MVP. He was, if Reggie stirred the drink, he was the heart and soul of those 70 teams. There's no question about it. And then you have Andy Pettitte, and it's a good answer. I mean, he's the answer to a trivia question. Who has the most wins postseason all time? 19. I mean, it says a lot. Because it's all, when it comes to the Yankees, it's all about winning championships. It's all about the postseason. So, great answer. Christian, it's been so enjoyable speaking to you. You have a very, very bright future in this industry. There's no question about it. And I want to thank you for taking some time to calling in to the show today.
Hey, Mike, I really enjoyed talking to you about baseball. Really appreciated you bringing me on, and I hope to do this again.
We'll do. Definitely we'll have you on again as the season goes along. Thank you again, Christian.
All right, Mike, have a good one.
You too.